In a quiet, forgotten village nestled deep within the woods, a group of friends, Emily, Jack, Rachel, and Ben, decided to spend their weekend exploring. They had heard rumors about an abandoned mansion called Whispering Manor, infamous for the eerie sounds that echoed through its halls. The locals warned them to stay away, recounting tales of those who entered and never returned. But the thrill-seeking group dismissed the warnings as mere folklore. As they stepped inside the mansion, the air grew cold, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. Dust-covered furniture, shattered mirrors, and decaying walls whispered of a tragic past. Emily noticed an old journal lying on a desk. Its pages were filled with desperate scribbles about a family trapped in the house, unable to escape the grasp of an unseen entity. Strange things began happening. Jack felt a chilling touch on his shoulder, though no one was there. Rachel swore she saw a shadow darting across the hallway, and Ben, the skeptic, began hearing faint whispers calling his name. The group decided to leave, but the front door wouldn't budge. The windows, once shattered, were now intact, and the house seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Panic set in as the whispers grew louder, morphing into anguished screams. Emily suggested they split up to find another way out. As they explored, the house revealed its secrets. Rachel stumbled upon a nursery filled with broken toys where a rocking chair moved on its own. Jack discovered a hidden room with walls covered in handprints, as though people had clawed at them in desperation. Ben, wandering into the basement, found a shrine with photographs of the family who once lived there. Their faces were scratched out, except for one, a young girl named Lila. As he touched the photo, he heard her voice, "Help me." Meanwhile, Emily found a mirror that reflected not her own image, but the events of the past. She saw Lila playing with her family before a shadowy figure emerged, consuming them one by one. The mirror shattered, and Emily screamed. Reuniting, the group pieced together the story. Lila's spirit was trapped, bound by the shadow that fed on fear and despair. To escape, they had to free her. Guided by Lila's whispers, they performed a ritual found in the journal. The house fought back, its walls closing in, its shadows attacking them. One by one they fell until only Emily remained. Summoning all her courage, she completed the ritual, banishing the shadow. The house crumbled around her, and she awoke outside, alone. The village was gone, replaced by a dense forest. As she wandered aimlessly, she heard a familiar whisper, "Thank you." Years later, hikers discovered the ruins of Whispering Manor, but Emily was never seen again. Some say her spirit now guards the woods, warning others to stay away from the echoing shadows. Years passed, and Whispering Manor became a legend. Locals told stories about Emily's bravery, but the forest around the ruins was avoided. However, curiosity has a way of tempting the brave, or the foolish. A documentary crew, led by Sarah, a determined journalist, decided to investigate the story of Whispering Manor. Her team included Tom, a tech expert, Mia, a historian, and Lucas, the cameraman. Sarah was captivated by Emily's tale, but she believed there was more to it, a deeper mystery waiting to be uncovered. The group set up camp near the forest, and strange occurrences began almost immediately. The equipment malfunctioned, recording faint whispers and strange static. Lucas noticed shadows darting between the trees, but when he pointed his camera, nothing appeared. Mia, while studying the journal entries Sarah had brought, discovered a disturbing detail. The ritual Emily performed might not have banished the shadow, but only suppressed it. The entity could resurface if disturbed, and the journal warned against entering the ruins. Ignoring the warning, Sarah led the group into the forest. They found the remnants of the mansion, charred wood, crumbled walls, and a cold, eerie silence. Among the ruins, they discovered a trapdoor leading to an underground passage. Despite their unease, Sarah insisted on exploring it. The passage led to a cavern filled with remnants of rituals, candles, symbols carved into the walls, and a large, cracked mirror at its center. The mirror was the same one Emily had described in her journal. It shimmered faintly, as though alive. Tom set up his equipment, and the mirror began to pulse with energy. The group saw distorted images within it, Emily's face, twisted in agony, and the shadow looming behind her. The whispers grew louder, turning into screams that echoed through the cavern. Suddenly the mirror shattered, releasing a chilling gust of wind. The cavern trembled, and the shadows began to take form. The entity had returned, more powerful and vengeful than ever. The team tried to escape, but the passage sealed itself. One by one, they were separated. Tom, his flashlight flickered, revealing the shadow creeping closer. His screams were cut short, leaving only silence. Mia. She found herself in a library filled with books detailing the entity's origins. She realized the shadow was not bound to the house, but to the land itself. As she tried to flee, the shadows consumed her. Lucas. While filming the chaos, he saw Emily's spirit. She reached out, pleading for him to leave, but before he could, the shadow dragged him into the darkness. Sarah, alone and terrified, confronted the shadow. It whispered her name, revealing her connection to the curse. She was a descendant of the family who had lived in Whispering Manor. The entity's wrath was directed at her bloodline. Desperate, Sarah invoked the ritual Emily had performed, but the shadow laughed. It had grown immune to the ritual's power. Emily's spirit appeared, guiding Sarah to a hidden artifact, a pendant belonging to Lila. Using the pendant, Sarah channeled Lila's energy, creating a protective barrier. The shadow writhed and screamed as it was drawn back into the mirror. With one final pulse, the mirror reassembled itself, trapping the entity once again. Exhausted and grieving the loss of her team, Sarah emerged from the ruins. She vowed to protect the forest, ensuring no one would disturb the shadow again. But deep within the cavern, the mirror began to crack once more. A faint whisper echoing, "This is not the end." Sarah's vow to protect the forest became her obsession. She abandoned her old life, settling in a cabin near the edge of the woods. For years, she kept people away, spreading rumors of dangerous wildlife and unstable terrain. But the whispers from the forest never ceased. They grew louder at night, a haunting reminder of the entity still trapped within the mirror. One stormy evening, Sarah received an unexpected visitor. A young woman named Evelyn knocked on her door, soaked as and trembling. She claimed to be a historian researching Emily's story and begged Sarah for help. Evelyn's curiosity mirrored Sarah's younger self, but something about her seemed off. Her pale skin, her piercing eyes. Reluctantly, Sarah allowed her inside. As Evelyn dried off, she revealed she had found a map leading to the ruins of Whispering Manor. She believed the shadow's origin was older than the house itself, tied to ancient rituals performed by a forgotten cult. Evelyn's research suggested that destroying the mirror wouldn't end the curse. It would unleash the shadow permanently. Instead, the land needed to be purified. Despite her instincts, Sarah agreed to help. She had grown tired of living in fear and wanted to end the nightmare once and for all. Together they ventured into the forest, armed with the pendant, the journal, and Evelyn's map. The ruins were more decayed than before, swallowed by the forest. The trapdoor leading to the underground passage had reappeared, as if inviting them in. Descending into the cavern, they found the mirror intact, glowing faintly. But something was different. The symbols on the walls had changed, pulsating with dark energy. Evelyn studied the symbols, muttering about a purification ritual. She set up candles in a circle and began chanting from a weathered book she had brought. As the chant grew louder, the cavern trembled, and the mirror's surface rippled like water. The shadow began to emerge, more tangible than ever. It took the form of a tall, faceless figure, its presence suffocating. Sarah held the pendant tightly, its warmth giving her courage. But then Evelyn stopped chanting. She turned to Sarah, her expression cold. "You don't understand, do you?" Evelyn said, her voice echoing unnaturally. "The shadow doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs a new host." Before Sarah could react, Evelyn revealed her true purpose. She was a descendant of the cult that had bound the shadow to the land. For generations, they had sought to control its power, and Evelyn believed she could succeed where her ancestors had failed. The shadow loomed over them, drawn to Evelyn's dark intentions. Sarah realized the pendant wasn't just a protective artifact. It was a key. She remembered Emily's journal mentioning a final sacrifice to seal the shadow forever. As Evelyn chanted to merge with the shadow, Sarah attacked her, knocking the book from her hands. The cavern erupted into chaos as the shadow lashed out, its tendrils destroying everything in their path. Sarah screamed at Emily's spirit to guide her. The pendant began to glow brighter, and Sarah felt a surge of energy. She held it up, its light piercing through the shadow. Evelyn shrieked as the shadow turned on her, consuming her completely. But the shadow wasn't done. It surged towards Sarah, desperate to escape. In a final act of bravery, Sarah threw herself into the mirror, pendant in hand. The mirror shattered, creating a vortex that pulled the shadow inside. The cavern collapsed, burying the ruins and the mirror forever. The forest grew quiet. Locals noticed the whispers had stopped, and the land seemed less ominous. Sarah was never seen again, but some say her spirit now roams the forest, ensuring no one disturbs the ruins. Years later, hikers stumbled upon a clearing where a single tree stood. Hanging from its branch was the pendant, glowing faintly, as if waiting for the next guardian. Decades passed, and the legend of Whispering Manor faded into obscurity. The forest regrew, erasing the last remnants of the ruins. The pendant, still hanging from the lone tree, became a forgotten relic until a new presence arrived. A group of urban explorers, drawn by online rumors of the cursed forest, ventured into the area. Among them was Daniel, a thrill seeker with a fascination for the supernatural. His companions, Lila, a photographer, Marcus, a skeptic, and Jenna, an amateur paranormal investigator, dismissed the warnings from locals, believing they were chasing a harmless ghost story. As the group wandered deeper into the forest, Daniel stumbled upon the clearing with the lone tree. The pendant, shimmering faintly in the moonlight, caught his eye. He reached for it, ignoring Jenna's protests. The moment his fingers touched the cold metal, a surge of energy coursed through him. Daniel began hearing whispers, soft, pleading voices that grew louder with every step. The others noticed his sudden change. He became distant, his eyes glassy, as if seeing something they couldn't. Jenna, sensing danger, urged the group to leave, but Daniel refused. "The forest wants us here," he muttered. "It's calling us." As night fell, the group set up camp. Strange occurrences began almost immediately. Lila's camera captured fleeting shadows that weren't visible to the naked eye. Marcus, ever the skeptic, dismissed the phenomenon as tricks of the light. But Jenna felt a growing sense of dread. That night, Daniel wandered off into the forest, drawn by the whispers. The others followed, finding him standing before a newly revealed entrance to the underground cavern. The trapdoor, thought to be buried forever, had reappeared. Against Jenna's warnings, Daniel opened it. The group descended into the cavern, now eerily intact. The mirror stood at its center, glowing faintly. As Daniel approached the mirror, the pendant around his neck pulsed with energy. The whispers intensified, turning into anguished screams. The mirror rippled, and the shadow began to emerge, larger and more menacing than before. Jenna realized the pendant had awakened the entity. She begged Daniel to destroy it, but he seemed entranced, speaking in a voice that wasn't his own. "It's too late. It needs a host." The shadow lunged at the group, its tendrils snaking through the cavern. Marcus tried to fight it, but was pulled into the darkness, his screams echoing before abruptly stopping. Lila, clutching her camera, captured a fleeting image of Emily's spirit before being dragged into the shadows. Jenna, now alone with Daniel, pleaded with him to resist. Emily's spirit appeared, guiding Jenna to the pendant. She realized it wasn't just a key, but also a weapon. Jenna tore the pendant from Daniel's neck, breaking the shadow's hold on him. The entity roared, its form unstable. Emily's spirit urged Jenna to place the pendant on the mirror, sealing the shadow forever. As Jenna approached the mirror, the shadow attacked, wounding her severely. With her last strength, she pressed the pendant against the glass. The mirror shattered, creating a blinding light that engulfed the cavern. The shadow let out a deafening scream before vanishing. The cavern began to collapse, and Daniel carried Jenna out just in time. Jenna survived but was forever changed. She returned the pendant to the lone tree, vowing to protect the forest. Daniel, haunted by the experience, dedicated his life to ensuring no one would disturb the site again. But the shadow's whispers never truly ceased. They lingered in the wind, waiting for the next unwitting soul to awaken it. In the heart of the forest, the pendant glowed faintly, a silent reminder of the darkness that once thrived and could rise again.